What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So here's something that everyone wants to know, and that is, how do you buy your first rental property? What do you look for? How much money do you need? Exactly what do you do? How do you know if it's a good investment? How do you smash the like button? Which, if you guys haven't already hit the like button, make sure to smash that like button. So this video is really meant to be a step-by-step guide to buying your first rental property. And then from there, you can continue doing your own research into finding out which property is right for you. So with that said, let's get right into it. Okay, so we're gonna be starting at the very beginning, and before you even think about investing in real estate, you're gonna need to do a few things first to prepare. So this is step 0, but obviously you're gonna need a down payment to invest in real estate. Now typically at the time I'm making this video right now, which is at the end of 2018, most lenders want to see about a 15 to 20% down payment anytime you buy real estate. That means for every $100,000 you end up buying, you're gonna have to put down between $15,000 and $20,000 from your own money. Now obviously if you're buying something for yourself as a primary residence, technically you could put down less, technically as little as 3 to 5%, and you just pay the PMI on top of that. But I generally recommend putting down a little bit more money just as a bigger safety net. And if you're investing in real estate, typically lenders are going to want to see you put more money down, not less. And ultimately, how much money you have saved up or will be saving up is really going to determine whether or not you will be investing in real estate and what you will be buying. So obviously, if you're watching this right now and you have like $3,000 saved up, don't expect to go and like buy a $200,000 property tomorrow. It's not going to happen. But in the meantime, at least save up, learn these strategies, and be able to implement them as soon as you do have the money. So now, assuming you're either in the process of saving for a down payment or you already have the down payment, step number 1 is that unless you're buying the property outright in cash, which I have a feeling is very few of you, you're going to need to get a loan on the property, and in order to do so, you're going to have to work on your credit score. That means if your credit score is like 550 and you only have 2 credit cards that have both late payments on them and maybe a few accounts and collections, chances are you got to take care of that first before you even think about investing in real estate. Now, ideally, anytime you go and get a mortgage, you'll want a credit score above 720, preferably above 740, and ideally you want to be above 760. The thing is, to get the best rates on a mortgage, you're going to want to have above a 740 credit score. Above this is the rate that lenders really give you the best rates possible. Now under that, you're seen as a riskier borrower, and because of that, they charge you more interest, and because of that, that just means less money in your pocket at the end of every month. So this means you're going to want to have credit to begin with and have a few active lines of credit that you've always paid off on time, nothing late, nothing in collections, and preferably your score is above a 740. And if that doesn't happen, you're really going to need to take care of that first by making sure that everything is paid off in full, that you have no accounts and collections, that if you have late payments, you either can dispute that, you try to get those removed. There's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube about how to clean up your credit score. It's really not that hard. Don't go and pay someone to do this. You can do it yourself very easily. Just YouTube all of this, you'll learn a lot. Just YouTube it. And if you don't have any credit to begin with whatsoever, I have like 7 videos already about how you can get started building your credit. I will just link to those in the description, or I'll just make like a top post. You know what, I'll do a top post on it, so you'll see it down below. So step number 2, I'm now assuming that you have decent credit and have somewhat of a down payment, or you're saving for it. You will need to have your tax returns in order. Now, anytime a lender looks at your tax returns and tries to give you a loan, especially if you're self-employed like me, they're going to look at the last 2 years of your tax returns and take the average between those 2 years. This means that if year number 1 you made $50,000, year number 2 you made $100,000, the average of that is $75,000, and that is the amount that they will give you a loan on. In addition to that, they usually want to see anywhere between 2 months and 6 months of your bank statements, proof of employment, proof of income, proof of any other liabilities or assets that you have. Make sure you have all of these in order because they will be asking for it. Now, it's really important that if you're planning to invest in real estate, that you don't just deduct everything from your tax returns to avoid paying taxes on it. Now, in the past, I've been pretty aggressive about deducting as many expenses as possible against my income, but when lenders go and look at your tax returns, they see the much lower amount that you're reporting that you make after all of your expenses, and they loan you just based off the much smaller amount. So that means if you think you're all cool because you make $100,000 a year, but you write off $80,000 of that as an expense to lower your tax bill, good luck getting a loan on that. Now, prior to getting a property, I'll usually go a little bit lighter on my expenses, so that way I end up paying more taxes, but on the flip side, I can qualify for a larger loan, which is more important because I'm showing more income. So it's very important that you make sure to take care of this and anticipate this in advance. So step number 3 is talk to a lender before you do anything. Otherwise, I promise you this is what's going to happen. You're going to go out, start looking at properties, and like the first place you see is going to be absolutely perfect. Then you're going to go to the lender and find out that that place is over your price range and you can't afford it, and you're going to be heartbroken. But then everything else you see, you're going to compare it to the place that you missed out on, that you couldn't afford, and it's just not going to be a good experience. You're not going to have a good time. So instead, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to a lender first, give them all your paperwork, your tax returns, your bank statements, your everything. Don't have them run your credit score. Instead, tell them what your credit score is. That way they won't have to run it, it won't ding your credit, you're not going to have a hard inquiry on your credit report. Don't do any of that. If you have no idea what your credit is, I highly recommend you run it on creditkarma.com. It's absolutely free. I wish they were sponsoring this video. Credit Karma, if you guys are watching, please sponsor me because I'm giving you a ton of free promotion here. For real though, Credit Karma is great. I use it myself. Creditkarma.com. You can sign up for free in like 5 minutes. It'll tell you approximately what your credit score is. Just tell lenders whatever that score is, and they'll be able to punch in all the numbers and tell you roughly what you would be able to qualify for. Now, this is so important you do this for a few reasons. Number one, you know from the lender exactly what you could afford, so that way you don't waste anyone's time or your time seeing something that's just out of your price range. Number two, if you see something you do really like, you've saved a lot of time because you already have all the information in with the lender and they're pretty much ready to go, just pending them running your credit. Now trust me when I say this because this is like over 10 years of experience now at this point. It happens all the time. If you find a spot that's worth buying, chances are 10 other people want it just as much as you do. So it's so important that you can hit the ground running, have all your paperwork ready. When it comes to investing in real estate, timing is key, and the quicker you can act on something, generally speaking, the better the deal you're going to get. So once you've got that out of the way, you've spoken with the lender, you figure out exactly what you can qualify for, start looking at all the properties on the market. This should really be the fun part. Look at everything you possibly can within your price range and then bump it up about 15% just so you're able to see properties that are a little bit more expensive to compare them to the ones that you're looking at. Now when it comes to this, the more properties you see, the better. When it comes to me buying real estate, I see absolutely everything on the market. I will see 25 to 60 places, everything in the entire area, so that way when I see the right one, I know it immediately. And once you start seeing more than like 20, 25 homes, you're gonna know exactly why something is priced the way it is, what upgrades are reasonable, what upgrades are not reasonable for the area, how well something is priced, if it's in good condition. You're gonna have a really good understanding once you see more than like 20 homes or so. Now, until you've seen a lot of homes on the market, you could end up seeing the perfect deal, but just not recognize it because you have nothing else to compare it to. Now, some people at this point might recommend looking out of state if you live in an area that's very expensive or just doesn't cash flow, so this might be a good option depending on your circumstance. Ideally for me, I like buying properties where I get to see what's going on day to day. I know where people are moving, I know where the trends are, I know where investment money is going, I can see how the area is changing firsthand, and because of that, I feel like I have an advantage over someone else who doesn't see those things day to day. Now usually when buying out of state, it's going to be a lot harder to notice some of these subtle trends unless you have someone you really trust or can rely on, or a really good realtor, but even then you take a risk relying on someone else without fully understanding the deal yourself. And listen, I'm not saying it can't be done because there are many very successful real estate investors that invest out of state. I'm just saying it carries its own risks associated with that, and you really need to understand exactly what you're buying and investing in. Now when it comes to me, I don't invest in properties on the really low end. I don't invest in properties on the really high end. For me, I go for the median price range. If anything, like if the median is like this whole range here, I usually like to go like lower middle, if that makes sense, just below like the average price in the area. Now for me, this means I can target the biggest buyer pool possible. Now just because I'm like lower middle, it means there's usually a little bit more room for upside potential for me to fix it up and increase the price. And also when it comes to renting out the property, it's just more affordable, and generally I'm gonna find a lot more tenants who want to live there. And also one more thing, and I'll call this like step 4.5. What type of property should you look for? Now for me, I tend not to look at any condos because I find that there's not a lot of room for upside. You can't add square square footage. There's usually only so much you can do to it, and you're at the mercy of the HOA, and not to mention, the HOA fees usually just eat into your profits. Now for that reason, I usually like single-family residences or duplexes, triplexes, or fourplexes, which means 2 to 4 units. Now the reason I like doing this is because you get to qualify for conventional financing, which is a lot easier to get than commercial financing once you go over 5 units. That means you usually get a lower interest rate and better interest rate terms and better mortgage terms. And not only that, but when it comes time to sell, if you ever decide to sell in the future, you're not only appealing to investors, but you can also appeal to owner users. Now step number 5 is that you need to determine what the cash flow is. And the reality of it is that usually like 95 to 98% of properties suck. They don't cash flow, they're gonna lose money, and they're not a good deal to buy. It's also a very true reality that everything makes a good investment if you buy it for the right price. So it's very important to understand what these numbers are and what to look for. Now, if you're ever looking at a property or an area and you have no idea what it's going to rent for, usually what I like to do is look it up on Craigslist.com. If you're in Canada, it's usually... What's up, you guys? It's Graham.